You are with the University of Karate. We've gathered again together to open up our minds to the principles, the science, the techniques, the elements, social and otherwise, even some of the hidden or lost principles, if you will, that make up the martial arts. I'm with Sensei Mike Biddle again as we talk together and unpack various different elements of the martial arts that we find interesting to ourselves as well as necessary for those that are on this path. We want to have a conversation today and really unpack how we introduce the idea of this conversation series every time. We talk about the principles, the theories, the science. We want to talk about that because there's a number of different studies that we've had, conversations that we've had, where we talk about the losing the arts in martial arts. We talk about the different principles that make up the martial arts. And we want to examine or start to examine a number of those again in these upcoming videos. We want to talk today about something called intent. And to prepare the talk and pass this over to Sensei Biddle, I just want to give a few ideas that may open our mind to thinking about this. We were talking before we came on to this recording about the human body, human mind, and development, and how a man in the wild grows in the wilderness, grows in the country, grows in an area where there's danger everywhere. His perception of his environment is a lot more attuned and aware than someone that is not in a dangerous environment where there's lions and tigers and various things that could be danger on every hand. He just is in tune with his environment. Possibly he could be someone who isn't on TikTok or Instagram or any of these social media platforms, even in the news. We're daily bombarded with information, flashing lights, moving things, short bursts of information, so much so that they're saying that our attention spans are getting lesser and less, especially this young generation coming up now. The idea of having and developing the mind, the body, as martial arts we understand or should understand, generally is trying to do. Many times people only can see the punching and kicking. They can only see the sweeps and the grappling. They don't see the system on which these grappling and striking and fighting, quote-unquote, arts are based. They're based on a system of development, not just the muscles, not just the tendons, but the organs of the body, chief among which is the mind. We're talking today about intent. Are you intentional in your practice? Do you have intent? Have you made decisions to practice? And in your practicing, are you intentional? If the gym you practice at closed, would you still practice? If the teacher that is teaching you went away, would you still have you intention there? And we want to let Sensei Biddle jump in and start talking about what is intention? How does it play into our development, even of how we feel and think and take in information, and how without intent and the correct type of intent, we can never really develop in martial arts or any of the disciplines that are developing the human body for the martial endeavor. Sensei Biddle, why don't you jump in and take us on this journey?
Okay, yeah, intent. So intent is about everything. I mean, that's the gateway of all of it. I'm going to say something first, and I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm just going to throw this out there because I think it's somewhat interesting and something for you to consider and explore on your own. Intent engages awareness. That's all I'm going to say on that. Now I'm going to talk about intent. So neuroscience have learned that for the most part, now I'm not talking about everybody, so don't say, that's not me. I know, it's probably not, or it may, but most people, by the time they're age 35, are 90% on autopilot. Now, what does that mean? That means their brains have wired everything that they do day in, day out, today, tomorrow, is hardwired and hard coded in the brain and the CNS, and that is what they will do, rinse and repeat for the rest of their lives, with a 10% engagement level above that. So 95% autopilot. What does that mean? It means, your brain is a very sophisticated organ. And when you learn something, you learn you have to think about what you're doing. Like think about when you first learned how to drive the car. It's overwhelming. It's all these things. You've got to turn the steering wheel. You got to do the blinkers. You got to push the gas. You got to put the brake. You got to check your blind spot. All these things that you're doing, they're overwhelming. But through time and repetition, and that's a key word. We want to come back to that word, repetition. Your brain understands that this is something that you're requiring it to do, so it programs that repetition, and it strengthens the neural pathways. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a neuroscience lesson. When your neurons connect together, they call it there's a saying, what wires together fires together. And that's how movement patterns, memory patterns, behavior patterns are done. The brain can make this connect A to B. Now, if it's something that you consider important, and that's where the word intent will come in, your brain will coat that pathway with what's called myelin. It's like the rubber over a wire. If you just have a bare wire and you run current through it, electrons escape into the air. If you coat it with the outside shell, it contains that signal and it runs faster. The resistance is less. Your brain is exactly the same way. The more you repeat something, the stronger that connection is. So eventually that connection is so strong, that's what you're going to do. And most things in your life you don't think about, that's what your brain has done for you. And it's a great benefit, but it's also a problem. So when you're just walking, your brain has programmed the movement patterns. You don't have to think about walking. If you had to think about walking and picking up your coffee cup and getting dressed, you couldn't get out of the door. So your brain hands that all off to the encoding and lets your conscious part of your brain escape. But that's the problem. So the problem is when that coding takes place, we go into that 95% range, and then we're allowed. Here, the beauty and the beast in this is the brain allows you not to think about everyday things. The beast is, are you thinking about other things? If you're not thinking about other things, then you're just sort of floating down the stream. And I'm going to use an expression, thing that I've sort of visualized in my mind. If you see water flowing down a stream, it's going a direction. And then you see sticks floating on that, they're going with the water. Now, are you the thing that guides the water, or are you the stick floating on it? So if we are passed off this stuff to our autopilot system, let's call it that, then our conscious is not engaged and it just happens. Now that's a good thing. If you learn your forms and your kata and your techniques, then you don't have to think about them. And I've talked about that, where if they're good enough, you should not have to think about them and you should be doing other things. Your awareness can be engaged differently. But if you're, like John was alluding to, if you're just practicing your forms and you're not paying attention with intent, and I'm going to redefine that. I'm going to define that, but I'm just giving you some guidelines as to the introduction into this idea. If you're just going through the motions of the punch, and you got to listen very carefully to what I'm saying. If you're just going through the motion of the punch, that's what you're doing. And that's what your brain is coding as in its memory bank. Is that punch correct? And that means that you have to have intent behind that process. So when your instructor is saying, this is how you do a reverse punch, you this, and this, and you just do it. Are you actually intending, number one, to follow exactly what he or she is saying? What are they saying? And are you translating it properly to incorporate that movement in the proper pattern? Now, if you've got a good instructor, their job is to make sure you do that. I remember my instructor, he was amazing. He would have 30 or 40 people doing kata and forms, and he'd just walk around. Biddle, turn your hand, put your thumb in, angle your knee differently, and he'd just holler out names. He'd see all of it. But that was what he's doing. He's helping me program my system. Now, if I'm paying attention, if I'm aware, my intent is there, I'm going to do the proper thing. I'm going to move the hand in the proper position, put the thumb in a proper place, and then encode that in my pattern. So if you, like John said, if your instructor were to leave, are you going to be able to continue? How are you going to do this? Hopefully you've learned enough that you can sit down and look at those movement patterns and figure out if you're doing them properly. Because, you know, the saying, practice makes perfect, that's bad advice. Because bad practice makes bad perfect. So it's only good if you're doing it right. Because the bad thing about the way the brain works is you can program emotion that's incorrect. And you do it enough, your brain encodes it, puts that sheath around the wire, and that's what you're going to do. And if it's wrong, you're not going to know it. What you feel is not real. That is a very important statement. The only thing you feel is change. So if you're rutted, if you're reverse punch, let me give an example. If your elbow is coming out and moving away from the side, and you're doing that, you don't know you're doing it. And if your instructor doesn't see it or someone corrects it, you're not going to change that. You're not going to wake up one day and go, oh, my elbow's moving out. Unless you heard one of my videos where I talked about it. And then you looked at it and said, wait, where's my elbow going out? Then you start having to do something different. So you've got this hard-coded program into your system, your brain, and in order to change that, it's going to require effort now. It's going to require a lot of effort. If you've been doing this for a long time, it's going to take you some work to undo it. And it's going to feel different. Good example is first time you step into a Sanchin stance with the foot turned in and the rear foot straight and the hips tucked forward, feels awkward. Nobody is comfortable in that stance. And you shouldn't be, because it's change, it's new. But through time, it begins to feel normal. And if it's programmed properly, I know intuitively if one of my feet are not turned within a degree of correctness. Because I can feel that, because that's wrong. That feels wrong. I know something has changed. So I fix that. My brain just automatically adjusts it. So now, when you're learning a technique, here's a very important concept when we talk about intent. Because now I'm going to explain intent a little bit. Intent is your awareness, your conscious going, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm doing. And your brain says, okay, let's do that. So when you're learning how to do something new, that's creating what's called neuroplasticity. It's opening your brain's ability to learn and adapt to change and new things. And that's a big deal. That gets you out of the 95%. So if you say to myself, what am I intending to do here with this punch? How am I intending to do it? And think about the intent of how that motion is taking place. Then you've opened your awareness to that, your sensation to it. You'll begin to actually feel that connection to the arm and what that movement is doing. If you're just punching without thought, then it's just that. Now again, in advanced levels, you want to hand that off to your CNS so that you can do other things. But that way, if you want to punch, the punch is already there. You're going to do it properly. But you're only going to do it properly if you've trained it properly. Otherwise, it's something wrong. But then, after that, you want to be able to be aware of other things. You want to be aware of your spatial awareness. You want to be aware of movement patterns around you. What the person you're sparring with or fighting, or what his movements pattern are. Recognizing that situation and being aware of it. But that is through intent. So intent is simply saying to yourself, what am I doing? Or I am going to do this. That's how you align your focus to what you want. And practice this. This sounds so silly. Honestly, it sounds so silly. But just hold your hand up and picture your hand. Feel your fingers. Now just feel closing your fist. Now I'm actually doing this. Feel closing your fist. What does that feel like? What does the connection to your brain feel like? Now open your hand and feel your hand again. Now you've got awareness. That's also spatial awareness. Now, where is your hand and where did you move that hand to in regards to your body? Is it to your side, to your front, down low? Where is that in space? Intend on feeling that space. Feel that. Where are you? And that's a part of your brain that you're activating. There's multiple parts of your brain. I won't go into that now because you can mess with all of them. But that's one of them, spatial awareness. Where are you sitting in the room? I know where I am in the room I'm sitting. I know exactly where I'm at. I can feel all the objects around me. I know where everything is. If you turned out the lights, I can navigate in this room. Because also I've learned over the years to take these feelings and translate them to where I am aware of these objects in their space. I know I don't have to look at John to see how he's moving or what he's doing. I can feel his movement patterns. I cannot be looking at him. If he wants my attention, I will feel that because I'll sense a subtle change. It's not like it's some esoteric thing. My brain is reading, maybe it's a tenseness in his chin. He may have a way of how he does that I'm now attuned to. So I know that. I also know when I see panic in his face when I've gone somewhere down the road, he's like, wait a minute, let's come back. So, but that's what we're good at. Like John was talking about in our prehistoric days, and how far you believe in evolution or whatever, doesn't matter. At some time, we all were in a primitive state. However you want to treat that as your belief system. We were chased by lions and snakes and leopards, and we had to provide our food, and all our day was a constant battle and survival. So imagine how our nervous system was attuned to the environment around us. And that's a magnificent thing. Imagine what they felt, what they sensed, what they heard, what they smelled, what they saw, what the detail of their environment that they could understand. Versus today, you come forward in time and we're scrolling on. I can't tell you how many times, like I'm out walking my dogs. And I use that as an exercise. I do this as an exercise in almost everything I do. I want to be aware of my surroundings. I want to know what my dogs are doing, what they're sniffing, what they're smelling, what they're sensing. I like to be in tune to them because it tells me if there's something around that I should be concerned about. But I also like to enjoy the environment, and it gives me time to relax and reflect. I can't tell you how many times I've had someone come on the other way walking their dog, and they're walking their dog and they're looking at their phone. And I'm like, okay, this is not going to go well. Because my dogs get pretty excited. They're boxers and they go berserk. Not in an aggressive way, but oh my God, what are we going to do? And I've got to grab them and pull them. And then the person wakes up into their, oh geez, what happened here? And like the environment collided with them because they had lost consciousness of the world around them. And I've watched, there's one young girl, she's a high school girl walking to a bus and she was walking with her phone. And I was walking my dogs and I had to corral them a bit and I got them quiet. I walked past her on the sidewalk and she never saw me. That's scary. Because what if I was a bad person? What if I had ill? It was in the middle of the day, but okay. But I've done it at night where I've been walking with people and they don't know I'm there. That's a problem. I don't like that. That bothers me. I know they're there 100 yards away because I see the subtle change of movement patterns. And my brain goes, something. And that's exactly it. If you've taken your focus and you've thrown it into your phone or you're just thinking about what you got to do tomorrow and your work and this. See, distractions come in a lot of ways, not just electronic. It's our own brains getting in our way. What am I going to eat? What am my wife's doing? What am I going to wear tomorrow? My boss is an asshole. All this stuff is running through your brains. Filter that out. There's an exercise in intent in and of itself. Intend not to do that. Clear your mind. Intend to be aware of your surroundings. Intend to feel your feet on the ground. What sound is it making? What is its relationship? Where is its spatial awareness? There's a whole world of exploration to put your brain to work in. And then when you refine that down to your movement patterns and your learning of movement patterns, you can more precisely correct and make that pattern more effective. So perfect practice becomes perfect repetition. Then it's at your disposal. But then you're free. Take that freedom. Your brain, like I started this whole thing with this, and I'm gonna come back around to it, and that's where, unless John this morning wants to interject here. Your brain allows you to free up from the manual things that you do day to day so that it can do other things. So do other things. Don't go through the motions. Don't exist. Don't wake up. Go through work. Come home. Go to bed. And do that. One of the drills, exercises my instructor had me do. It seems silly. We talked about this in a video about the teacher-student relationship. The process, the purification process. He said, every time when you go to bed, lay down and think about what you did that day. Evaluate it. The good things, the bad things. What did you do? What did you do all day? What did you have for supper? What did you have for lunch? What was your thought? What were you thinking about? Who did you meet? Reflect that. There's a lot in that process. Your intent now is on memory management. You can improve your memory just with intent. So that's just a simple exercise. So don't go through the motions. And we do, and we all do. Who's not guilty of it? I do it all the time. But I do it less than most because I've made it a life's work to learn and to pick up new things, new skills, learn new things, exercise my mind so that the routine things I do happen and I am free to do all the other marvelous things that my brain wants to do.
I just want to make one quick thought there that might kind of close this out. So this is, again, as we look at where martial arts today tends to be, where you see that the elements and principles that at one time all were part of the martial art that are now just not seen for just sparring and grappling and sport emphasis, but what used to be part of the martial art, which is the breathing, standing in a horse stance, quieting the mind, even getting out in nature, developing a wit. All these elements are part of this intent and developing this intent, which kind of is gone away. Is that what you see?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much could have stopped there. You said it. I mean, we talked about this in another video where the art lost in the martial arts, where we've lost the perspective, where the emphasis is so much on punching and kicking and all that. And that's fine. I mean, if that's what you want to do, good. I don't, like I said, I don't care about all this stuff. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just giving other ideas for you to think about for those people who are looking for something more. Whereas if you're just learning to spar and fight and exercise, and that's a good thing. That's a great thing. I like that. That's fine. But if you want more, then come here. Or think more, do something else. You got to go beyond that. And that's the point of what we're doing here in the University of Karate, is trying to give you ideas. And I don't care if you agree with them, and that's okay. I hope that you don't. If you agree with everything you say, then I'd be worried about you. So reflect on things and decide for yourself what you want to listen to, believe, and all that. But make that decision. That's the point. And what is that? That's intent. Mm-hmm. I got nothing else to say on that.
You are with the University of Karate. And again, our desire is to open conversation, create dialogue. The fact that Sensei Biddle has practiced from other master instructors these disciplines, has studied them, has research them. Doesn't mean that you should take him at just his word, but examine, see if these things are so. Think about them. We're opening conversation, even in the discussion box below this screen, in the comment section. Ask questions, pose different ideas, share your testimonies. We'd like to hear from you and hear what you're thinking and what you're studying about when it comes to some of these disciplines and some of these topics that we're looking at. We thank you for joining us. Again, you are with the University of Karate, and we look to again see you next time.